Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I-Shou is all about culture shock, and for our international students who flew halfway across the globe, the difference in culture is something they either adapt to and come to embrace, or resist and come to reject. I'm Seva from Russia, and today we have with us two of I-Shou's very own international students, Sean from St. Vincent and Grenadines.
Hi everyone.
And Hadeel from Palestine. It's great to have you here on show, guys. Thank you for coming. And so to start off, what do you guys think about Taiwan?
Well, for me, Taiwan is far more developed than I ever expected. Because I can remember when coming here, I first stopped off in New York, and the mirroring of the buildings, especially in Taipei, is so similar that I was like, am I in the States or am I in Taiwan? Because the just the way in which the place is well kept. That's one of the major things that stood out for me in Taiwan.
And how about you?
As for me, it was mainly the nature. Like, the nature here is so abundant because back home it's mainly just like the desert all over the place. But here it's like really green.
Yeah, it's very different for two of you guys. So for you it's nature, for Sean it's the constructions.
Yeah.
And so as the days went by, you get to explore Taiwanese culture. Did you ever expect anything that you would call a culture shock?
Definitely. I definitely experienced a culture shock. The first week that I came here, I spent about 1 week in Taipei. And the apartment that I was staying at, there was, when I went to use the bathroom, I was, one, surprised that it was completely separate from the apartment.
Oh, really?
And two, when I went into the bathroom, there was no division to say this would be the shower and this is the face basin area. And I was like, did they forget to complete the bathroom or put the shower curtain? Because I've never seen anything like that back home. That was the biggest culture shock for me.
So back in St. Vincent, how do the bathrooms connect to the...
Usually we have a division like a shower curtain, or it would be elevated from the ground. If the water is flowing from the shower, it would not go to the area where the toilet is.
No, but you mentioned that it was separate from the main, like, apartment.
Yeah, there would be a like there was a corridor, and then you would have to open your bedroom door and then go to the other bathroom. Like there's several apartments.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Usually, if you're renting an apartment, the bathroom area would be inside your apartment instead of you have to go to somewhere else.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
That's actually what surprised me as well, because well, in Russia, it's I don't know, it's maybe like not a tradition, but the way it is that usually the bathroom and the toilet, they're separate. It's a two different rooms. It's not just like they have a curtain to separate them. It's literally two different rooms.
Really?
Yeah. And that's the way they constructed the apartments. Well, most of them, like 90%, in my country. And Hadeel, what about you? What would you call a culture shock for you here in Taiwan?
Mainly just how early everything closes.
Early.
Like, at 5 p.m., no one, like, most shops close. And during vacation, like, or holidays, you won't find anything open. Like, malls would close, shopping centers would close. And it's like, where do people go? Where am I supposed to go?
Are they sit home?
Exactly.
Yeah, and for you guys, what it is you think is important visiting another culture when you're coming to a new place, when you're experiencing the cultural shocks? What do you think is the most important when you face it?
I think respect
Of course.
is really important because for a lot of people, especially those close-minded that have to travel to other cultures, they will find it really shocking, like how people, celebrate things or how they eat things. So to just respect those cultures and just like put a boundary between what you can say and what you can't say, I think is really important.
Have you ever faced anything that maybe you accidentally said something that was inappropriate or maybe weird for the local people? No?
So far, I haven't, and I am still looking to see if anything like that would happen. But I think that security is very important when you go to another country. Uh, y- you'd feel very uncomfortable walking on the street, and every time you have to be looking behind your back to wonder if somebody is following you. But in Taiwan, you don't get that feeling at all. You, I feel as though you could walk at any hour of the night within Taiwan and feel secure, and that is very critical to me when you go to another country.
Yeah, actually, Taiwan is, well, I've read recently the report of the most safe countries to live in by some journal, and Taiwan took a second place just after the Qatar. Yeah,
Wow.
but yeah, Qatar is a big, influencing oil country, and I was like, wow, Taiwan. It's not like I was surprised because, well, I've lived here for almost 3 years now, and I felt it on myself that it's very safe here comparing to Russia. Well, I feel very comfortable at walking at night, and yeah, I don't have to worry about anything happening to me or to my friends.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I feel like when you're coming to another culture, it's better for you to learn its rules first. So just to don't get yourself into, awkward situation when you say something and then people are staring at you and saying, "Oh,
That ever happened to you?
it did."
When did you say?
What happened?
I was just well, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it just caused the confusion, and then I had to explain myself that I didn't mean anything bad by saying it. It's just well, for my perspective, for my point of view, to say this was appropriate, while for my Asian friends it was not.
Wow.
So yeah, learn and don't get yourself in awkward situations. And comparing to your own country, guys, what amazed you the most about Taiwan?
Go first.
All right. Art in public spaces, because back home, although we have mural paintings in special locations in Taiwan, there is not only murals but also sculptures in different locations, and you could randomly come across one, and they're not all based on the same theme. You could see that it was like there was planning inside of it to select an artist and put something inspirational inside a space that would have just been concrete. So it really adds visual interest into little pockets. That's one of the things that really stood out to me.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. What about you,
I
Hadeel?
think how active people are. Like you will find sports center around every corner of the street, and you will find that people are so into basketball. So much so that
definitely.
here in the university they hold like the actual really big tournament. I forgot its name though.
Yeah, basketball is really, really developed here. But what about people? Like comparing, like for my first thing that I've came up with here is that how nice are people when you walk in on the streets, and if anything happens to you, they're willing to help you just no matter what. And you could feel that kindness coming from them.
Yeah, I
Did
saw
you
that.
feel it?
Yeah, in old people, strangely enough, because mostly old people are like really standoffish, but in here it's actually the opposite. You will find that old people will actually like remember you, and they will actually extend a helping hand to you.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I think back home, old people are quite kind. Yeah. But, one of the biggest things that stood out to me in terms of the culture is when I was on the scooter. I was amazed at how many scooters there were.
Oh, the
and how
scooters. Oh, yeah,
all ages. And
Notorious Taiwanese roads and scooter drivers. Yeah.
And I could recall seeing an entire family on a scooter, and I was like,
Oh, oh yeah. When the one small scooter and then the baby in front and baby behind, and then husband and the
Yeah.
wife, and all going on one scooter. That's amazing. That's the culture.
yeah, but
That's the culture, definitely.
But in terms of the people and their attitude, I really appreciate how there isn't like a sense of judgment or somebody just like looking at you and wondering what you're doing. I can remember seeing this post online, well, a meme. Other countries, like England, United States, and they're like, there's this camera and it's looking to see what everybody is doing. But then in your country, you have this lady, your neighbor, with a cigarette smoking and looking at what everybody else is doing.
Okay, then let's talk a bit more about your own countries, guys. And would you share with us what are the important things that your culture has given to the world?
I think like scientific achievement. Like, for example, during the Islamic Golden Age, they actually gave, like, for example, they helped with developing the algebra system and the arithmetic system as well. They also helped spreading, like, the designs. For example, the interior design of most mosques, that was also developed during that age. And so I think that it was adopted from other cultures as well to be able to design their own, buildings.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I would say rhythm and music, especially from the Caribbean, because many countries in the Caribbean, especially St. Vincent, they have their own blend of music. And we also have a lot of like festivals during the carnival, and during that period, you find that new music that those artists I didn't expect to be hearing them in Taiwan, and that gave me a sense of pride because when on a daily basis you hear these music constantly, but to actually hear it in another country, you realize the amount of recognition people have for your own culture, but you don't know how it's impacting them outside. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Like, yeah, we all know, we heard about the Caribbeans' style of like a way of living, the music, the parades. It's actually very, very unique. And could you maybe share some knowledge about what are the important things your culture has adopted from another culture? That maybe what's something in your culture that was brought to you by other cultures?
I think, for example, wedding dresses, this can be really universal though, because a lot of cultures adopted this from Western cultures. Maybe vehicles, but you were also you mentioned
that's
that.
cool, that's
before.
cool.
The transportation system, for example, like in my country, they didn't have that, but once Japan developed a really well-rounded transportation system, my country, they also started to build that. They actually appointed Japanese engineers to help with that.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I would say for my country is relatively young, just about 200 years or so. So the language for one, English is the main spoken language present in our country, but before the indigenous people, we would speak a language known as Garifuna and the Kalinago languages as well. And another thing that stands out that what was imported into my country is use of cellular devices, because that became a very crucial aspect in the government maintaining education during the corona pandemic.
Wow,
So an initiative was done to give each child a tablet during the pandemic to foster online learning.
Oh,
So that was something that the outside world helped to bring into my country in order to help maintain a level of continuity in this disruption, this age of disruption.
okay.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the local language that was spoken by indigenous people. Does it still spoken, or like if you go to Caribbeans, like could you hear people talking in it, or it's mostly English?
That is a very long story. I'm not sure if you want to hear of all of it, but however,
The key points.
key points. Okay, so one, my country was the last country to be colonized in the Caribbean. The ethnicity of the people that is known as Garifuna is a mix between the Kalinago people and the local people. So I'm a descendant of that. When the British came and colonized the country, they exiled over 4,000 persons. and half of them died. The rest were shipped to places like Nicaragua, Belize, and the like. Persons who remained, they couldn't speak the local language. So, for example, they were killed on the spot if they spoke it. And gradually we adopted the English tongue.
No.
So do you know the
Yeah, I
original
know some
language?
words, yeah.
Does your parents
No.
or
No, no.
So it was your personal interest to learn some of
Yeah,
it?
and I was exposed to it. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I didn't know that, and I'm pretty sure our listeners didn't know that too. Thanks
Yeah.
for enlightening us. So, when you study in I-Shou, I-Shou is a very international university, and we have students from more than 40 different countries across the globe here. So, what is the most surprising, and did anything surprise you the most when you met people here from different countries? Maybe any funny stories or funny facts, anything?
God, Indonesian people.
Oh.
They're so, I don't know how to explain this, but for me personally, when I meet someone from the same nationality as me, I don't just hit it off right away with them. Like, there's like a very long period of just like meeting the persons, like talking, like small talks, and that's it. But Indonesian people, when they meet other Indonesian people, they just start talking to each other like family,
Yeah, it's like they knew them forever.
yeah, which really surprised me, and it was heartwarming to see, but I was so surprised by this.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, I never made the observation, but I could say the same thing, because even with my roommates who are Indonesian, they have this sense of brotherlyhood that you could see that they're very supportive to one another, and I really appreciate that aspect. It doesn't have much sentience in I-Shou, but we get along well. But it's still a different level. It's still a different level.
Yeah. And my personal experience with Indonesian people, I was surprised. I was wow. I even sometimes call them Russian Asians.
Okay.
Yeah, or Russians of Asia, because the way they live is very close. The way they act, the way they speak, basically it's very close to what I've experienced back home. When I came here, I didn't expect anyone to behave like that. But I just most of my classmates, like most of my friends here, are Indonesians. And my first year, I was just hanging out with them like almost every day. I think. After my first year, I knew more Indonesian language than I knew Chinese.
Wow.
Yeah, and I still think I know more Indonesian than I know Chinese.
So would you go to Indonesia now?
I might. I want to. I'm very curious about this country, and I would really like to go there and see for myself how they live, and apply the knowledge of the Indonesian language that I've learned instead of Chinese.
But you need
Yeah.
Chinese. It's so important when you get it wrong.
Yeah, I know it's very important, and I'm there. I'm on the way. Soon the Chinese will surrender, or I will surrender, and we will comprehend each other. So, have you ever felt confused by actions or someone who came from another culture, another country? Did they anyhow confuse you, or you guys are tough and nothing confuses you?
It was actually Taiwanese people.
Taiwanese people.
Yeah, I know that a lot of people say they're kind and stuff, and they are kind. It's like, I think it's mostly when most people keep to themselves. And this is something that bothers me a lot. Like when something in public happens and you need help, no one will approach you unless you go out to the person and actually specifically ask for their help. And I understand that this has maybe something to do with how shy people are, but at some points it just feels like the person does not acknowledge you. It's just like, you're on your own, I don't care about you. So this kind of really, like, it was kind of annoying.
Surprising and annoying, right? At the same time. What about you, Sean?
Is it a long list?
It's not necessarily a long list, but it's with somebody else from another culture, is the language is a major thing for me, because I could remember when the first day that I came to Kaohsiung, I came off at the wrong bus station. So I was trying to get to I-Shou, and then the taxi driver was there, and I couldn't communicate with him because I didn't learn Chinese or anything like that. And I was calling my friends in Taipei, told them I'm lost, I don't know what to do. So I was waiting on someone from my country, but I said, I'm waiting too long for this. Let me just take the taxi, use Google Maps, and go where I need to go. And I got there. But the language, that was the biggest barrier for me. That was the biggest barrier for me. But in terms of interacting with people, I'm a more introvert. So I get by my day on a regular without really.
Yeah, I agree. The language barrier is the most confusing thing when you're living in another country. I lost the count how many times I was lost and I couldn't. I was just using my Google Translate as my last hope. When I got many times the wrong food. I went to the wrong directions. I didn't get what I wanted to get, and that's all good motivations for me to keep learning Chinese. But I will. I promise.
Yeah. The food.
How about your Chinese, guys? How is it?
I don't know any Chinese. I basically just know the basics.
谢谢, 你好,
Exactly.
再见.
Yeah, well, I did a year of Chinese, but my Chinese, I don't think it's the best though. You need a lot of practice, and I need to interact more with Taiwanese people. But unfortunately, I don't think I expose myself enough to be given that opportunity.
Just get lost someplace, and then you'll be forced to actually interact with the people.
Yeah, it's like if you don't know how to swim, like someone throws you in the ocean, and you have no other way except for try to swim.
In order for me to do that, I just need to put away my phone. I'll be fine.
Just do it.
Okay, and then coming to the next question, guys. What's the cultural aspect that caught you off guard in Taiwan? Something that you totally did not expect.
Oh, the motorcycles are everywhere. I know we spoke about this, but this reminded me. Like whenever you're walking down the street, the motorcycles would come on the actual pavement where people would walk on. And I'm like, I can't escape you. I just need some place where I can walk in peace. But yeah, that's one.
I would say the U-bike system. I really appreciate it. It's really useful, especially if you want to get to short distances without using the MRT. I really and get a bit of exercise.
It's both healthy and convenient.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And as for me, something that caught me off guard is I would agree with you. It's the bike, it's the roads, and the roads are very narrow.
Really?
Very narrow. Yeah, well, comparing, let's say, to my country, because, we have a lot of land and not so many people. And so, since we have a lot of land and not so many people, most of our land is just nothing. And the roads are wide and everything is like, basically, whenever you walk, you can see the horizon line.
Wow.
Yeah. And when I came here, and like those narrow streets where the buses, trucks, then the scooters and the cars, all of them together going two sides, and then the people is walking between them. I was like, oh my god, what is this?
I fear for my life every
yeah,
time.
I fear for my. I was like, wow, I don't want to get on a bike here. I don't want to get even on the car here.
Wow.
I don't feel safe here. But yeah, I feel like. Yeah, it's just the way they drive, the way they live. That's why, my friends foreigners, they get into accidents. My friends Taiwanese, they don't get into accidents. I was like, how? You guys both have like licenses and driving experience. How come the Taiwanese never get into accidents, but you guys, like one of my friends, he's from Honduras. He got into 12 accidents here.
Wow.
12 accidents.
Motorcycle accidents?
Yeah, motorcycle.
Wow.
12 motorcycle accidents.
Okay.
And when the 12th one happened, it was very funny because he was joking, like, 6, Leo. So he was like, Leo, 6 plus 6, 12. Yeah, he was cheering himself up. And well, to wrap up, what will you most miss when you go back to your home country?
Probably nature. Yeah.
Nature?
I would say the convenience of getting from place to place, no matter which day in the week, because you can get the same transportations in the weekday as you can on the weekend. That's quite different.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. That's a wrap up of today's show. We hope you had a last blast with us and we've brightened your day. Subscribe to us, I-Shou Show, so you don't miss our brand new talk shows. I was your host for today, and thank you guys for coming. See you around.